Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Mem Aleph Amud Beis at the new parak. The parak continues the discussion of Tchum. We know that at Tchum, a person has 2,000 amos from the Makom of Shvisa, either where he is situated on the beginning of Shabbos or Yontif, because that's his house or his city, or if he is Koine Shvisa Ayidei Eruv Techumim, he has 2,000 amos in all directions. Says the Mishnah, Misha Hotziu Nachrim Ruach Ra Ein Loy Ela Dalet Amos. If a person was taken out of his Tchum, either by Nachrim or by a Ruach Ra, an evil spirit which caused him to then run away outside of his Tchum, he lost his das temporarily. So these are considered cases of oines. And the Gemara Mishnah says, Ein lo ela daled amos. Nonetheless, he only has daled amos for where he will then be newly found. Hichziru ki ilu lo yotzo. However, if they return him, let's say either the Nachrim or the Ruach Ra brings him back to his original Techum, then he will then have the 2,000 amos in all directions. Holichu li'ir acheres. If, let's say, the Nachrim bring him out from his original Tchum into a place that is enclosed with mechitzos. Nasnu b'dir oy besar. For example, they put him into a deer, which is, let's say, a corral normally used for animals. It was typically outside of the city that was used for 1 or 2 days so that the animals would then fertilize that area of the fields. Then they would move it to another area. Or a sahar, which was in the city itself, again used for animals, and they would place the person within these mechitzos. So Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, Ormim Mahalech Eskula. Then he can go within the whole area. That's one area of a Daled Amos, which is the entire area is considered to be Daled Amos. And therefore he can walk freely with carrying things within that area. Rabbi Yoshua, Rabbi Akiva, Ein loy ela daled amos. No, he only has daled amos even in these areas that are within walls. The Mishnah now brings the following Masechet Shebo mi Plandarsin, a place called Plandarsin, v'hifliga sfinosim bayam. There were sages that were on the boat, and on the onset of Shabbos, even after it was Chashecha, the boat went outside of its dock. Now, it was either by the wind or the Nachri, the Gentile, was the captain of the ship, and he went against their will into the water. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, holchu eskula. They were lenient and they were able to walk within the entire Sfina, because since the Sfina has walls around it, it's surrounded by mechitzos, so l'shitosam, therefore one can walk within all of that area of the Sfina. And therefore when they went to Kula, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Akiva, lo yizozu midalad amos, shirot lahachmi al atzman. Whereas Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Akiva, they were themselves machmir to only go dalad amos, and the Gemara will explain what is this lashon of shirot lahachmir al atzman. Didn't they say mi'ikar hadin just before that one cannot go beyond Daled Amos? Why is the Mishnah then stress over here? They were machmir al atzman. The Mishnah goes on to say another incident. Pam achas lo nichnasu lenamal al shechashecho. One time it was on Erev Shabbos, they were traveling on a boat, and the boat only entered the port after chashecha, after the onset of Shabbos. Omru loy Rabbi Gamliel ma anu leired. They asked Rabbi Gamliel, can we go down from the boat? Omar lahem mutarim atem shekvar hayisi mistakel vayinu betoich hatchum ad sheloi chashecha. He said, you can do so because I was looking and I was then measuring the tchum. Did we have, or were we within 2,000 amos of the city and of the port, and indeed we were at the time of Chashecha, and therefore you can go down from the boat now that it's Shabbos. Says the Gemara, bringing the following brayso. So after the Mishnah had mentioned that there was a Ruach Ra that might have taken a person away from his Tchum, outside of that Tchum, whereby he only has Dalet Amos, the Brisa then says, Gimel Dvarim Ma'avirin es ha'odam al daitoi va'al das koinoi. There are three things that cause a person to transgress his personal will and the will of his Creator. Elu hein, and these are them. Oivdei koichavim, veruach ro, v'dikduke anius. Nochrim, oivdei koichavim, that can then get him to transgress his own will with their duress and the will of their Creator. A person also will transgress his own will and the will of his Creator by a ruach ro. He loses his senses. And also when it comes to abject poverty, a person can lose also his senses and transgress his own personal will and the will of his Creator. Ask the Gemara, "Lemay nafka mina?" What is this coming to then teach us practically? Lemiboy rachamei alayu, that a person should always daven, that he shouldn't succumb to such situations whereby he'll then be without the ability to then have the strength and the clear-mindedness to then do what is right in the eyes of Hashem. Gimel ein roim pnei gehinnom. The Gemara goes on to say in this brisa that there are three who do not even see the pnei gehinnom. Eluhin, and these are them. Dakduke anius, abject poverty, because of the suffering and the tremendous agony that a person suffers. V'choyle ma'ayin, and also intestinal illness, again because of the sufferings that he suffers and tolerates in this world. V'harashus, and some explain this to mean the government, when they are coming to then cause him tremendous pain and aggravation, he also does not see the Pnei Gehinnom. Some say, even a person who has an Isha Ra, a woman who is either immoral or a woman who is somebody who is constantly fighting and berating him. This is a woman that he is suffering from, and again, a person does not see the Pnei Gehinnom. Why did the Tana before not mention this as one of those that do not see the Pnei Gehinnom? V'idach isha ra mitzvah legarsha. If she's an isha ra, then he has a mitzvah to then divorce her, whereby he will not suffer from him any further. V'idach. So why did the second Tana include this in the list if he should go ahead and divorce her? Answers the Gemara, Zimnin de ksuvasa meruba. Sometimes the ksuva that he would have to pay out would be beyond his ability, therefore have to remain married to her. Inami isle bonim mina v'lo mati megarish lo, or he has children that are from her and he cannot divorce her as a result. Ask the Gemara, lamai nafka mina, what is the practical ramifications of knowing this? Answers the Gemara, lekibule me'avo. Since he knows these sufferings are going to bring him to the fact that he's not going to see the Bnei Gehinnom, therefore he should mekabel these yisurim ba'avo, and as a result, then get a kapara for the pain and suffering. Says the Brisa further, Shloisha Mesin Kishem Mesapim. There are three who die even while they can still speak strongly. In other words, they have koyach, and yet they die very spontaneously. Ve'eluhin, and these are them. Choyle ma'ayin, those who have intestinal illness. Ve'chaya, those women who are giving birth. Ve'hadiroikin, and those who then suffer from an illness that begins in the mouth. Some say it causes the stomach to swell up as well. Lamai nafka mina. What is the practical ramification of knowing this? Explains the Gemara, Mashmushe behu zavdosa, that one should then prepare the tachrichin, the shrouds, meaning to say, it'll cause him to then be misarer to do teshuva, whereby he'll get a kapara from all of these things beforehand, in case he does or she does have to die in the midst of these illnesses or giving birth. Says the Gemara of Nachman Shmuel, Yotza Ladas. Now we said in our Mishnah that if a person is taken away by Nachrim against his will or a Ruach Ra, and he leaves his Tchum, he only has Daled Amos in that new place. So now we have a statement in the name of Shmuel, Yotza Ladas, if he went on his own volition outside of his Tchum, Ein lo ela arba amos, he only has Daled Amos. Frek the Gemara Pshita. If since our Mishnah already stated that if he were taken out be'oines, against his will, and still he only gets Dalet Amos, and certainly when he goes out with his own volition, he will only get Dalet Amos. Pshita asked the Gemara, Hashto Misha Hotziuhu Nochrim Ein Lo Ela Dalet Amos Yotza Ladas Mi Boy. Do we need to teach that? Certainly you only have Dalet Amos. So what is Rav Nachman teaching in the name of Shmuel? Ela Ema Chozar Ladas Ein Lo Ela Dalet Amos. Rather, he's coming to say that if he returned after being brought out be'oines, now he returns to his tchum, he will still only have Dalet Amos. Ask the Gemara, still Nami Tanina. We also taught that in our Mishnah. Hecheziruhu Nachrim Kilo Yotza. It states when they would return him, the Nachrim, then it states as if he didn't leave, meaning then he has his tchum. Is mashma that if they did not return him, but he went on his own volition, then he would not have Dalet. Then he would not have the ability to then go within 2,000 amos. He'll only have Dalet Amos. Hecheziru. Who the ki'ilu lo yotza aval hotzi'uhu nachrim v'chazer ladas ein lo Dalet Amos. But if he went on his own volition back to his tchum, he will not have anything other than Dalet Amos. So therefore, what's the chiddush again that Rav Nachman is saying in the name of Shmuel? Elo, the Gemara says, Eima yotza ladas. He went out on his own volition. He left his tchum. V'hechziru nachrim ein lo ela Dalet Amos. And the Nachrim, against his will, brought him back to the Tchum. Still, he only has Dalet Amos. Ask the Gemara, still, Hanami Tanina, we also learned that from our Mishnah. Because it states, Hotzi'ihu v'hichziru, if they took him out against his will, and the Nachrim brought him back to his Tchum, again against his will, Ki'ilu lo yotza, then it's as if he never left. Mashmaloi hotziu v'chziu de kilo lo yotza. Aval yotza ladas loy. But if he went out on his own volition, then not. Even if they would bring him back against his will, he would not have anything other than Dalet Amos. Says the Gemara. No, this is the chiddush that Rav Nachman was saying in the name of Shmuel. Ma would this say? Litzdadin kitani. I might read the Mishnah erroneously and say that it's talking about litzdadim, two different cases. When it states V'hichziruhu, it's not talking about a continuation of v'hotziuhu. That means to say that when it says hichziruhu, they brought him back, not because they took him out in the first place. As follows: Misho hotziuhu nachrim v'chazer ladas ein loy ela Dalet Amos. When they took him against his will, they took him out of the tchum, and then he returns on his own volition. So then he only has Dalet Amos. Aval, I might think, however, Yotza Ladas, if he went out on his own, V'hichziu Nachrim, Ki lo Yotza, and then they went and they returned him, then it's as if he did not go out. He has more than Dalet Amos, he has all of the Tchum. Kamash Malan, we don't take the word V'hichziru and say it's separate and independent from the first part of the Mishnah of Misha Hotzi Uhu. And therefore, even if he went out on his own, he was returned against his will, he will only have Dalet Amos. Says the Gemara, Boy Minei Me Rabba. They asked Rabba the following question. Once we say that a person is left his tchum, and even if he was taken out without his rotzoin, he only has Dalet Amos. What happens if hutzrach l'nekavov? What happens if he needs to then relieve himself? Omar lahem, Rabbi responded, Godol kvod abriyo shedoiche es loisase shebatayra. We have a principle that when the Torah says loisasur, do not deviate from the words of the Chachamim. So therefore, there's a lav of loisasur. That means any rabbinic enactment, if it's kavod habriyos, then it's doiche, such a rabbinic enactment. So too over here, the tchum is a rabbinic enactment, and therefore, if he has to relieve himself, then he may then go ahead and go beyond his Dalet Amos. Omer Nehardari then stated, if this person is a wise man and he has to relieve himself, then ayal letchuma, he should then re-enter his tchum. The kiven the al, and since he enters, then he can then remain there. And since here he did so beheter, just like we said in a situation, if the Nachri took him out against his will, ba'oines, and then the Nachrim would bring him back, he would have 2,000 amos. So to over here, if the Nachrim or some sort of oines took him outside of his tchum, and now he has a heter because kavod habrios is doiche losase shebetayra, and then he enters his tchum, having to relieve himself, then he will have the original tchum again.